Welcome back to Space Coast Real Talk. I'm Nichole Barna.
And today we are with Chris Ritman. She is a realtor at Florida Lifestyle Realty.
Who I feel knows everything about Cocoa Beach and Cape Canaveral area, everything that's going on. You might disagree, but it's always a pleasure to hear you talk about what's going on in the area. So I'm so glad that you're here with us today to talk about it.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you want to get started?
Sure.
Cool. So my first question is, there's a lot going on in the area. Can you name some of the things that you're most excited about?
Well, the new things that are happening, number one, in Cape Canaveral, there's a Hilton that's being built in front of the other hotels very close to where the cruise ships are. It's also very strategically located for the new aquarium, which is going to be breaking ground pretty soon in the Cape Canaveral area, which will be walkable from the port. So it will help with our port of call business, which we do have port of call ships that come here. And they really just take them to old downtown Cocoa on the mainland, or they go to the Space Center, which is great. But this would give us another venue which is walkable from the cruise ships themselves. Right. Or they could even shuttle them back and forth.
So another option for things to do and ways for it to boost our economy.
Absolutely. And it keeps the people here instead of taking them away from the port area. Some people get in a car and they go to downtown Cocoa Beach, or they go to, areas around that know the area well enough. Most people don't do that are not familiar. And some just stay on the ship, just like we do when we're in the Bahamas.
Yeah.
Sometimes we just don't get off. So
right.
It just depends.
I mean, that's kind of how I am. I just like, wherever you say I should go, let's do it, because I don't know it very well.
Right.
So a lot of
Some people don't like to wait in line and get on the bus with the other people too. So it just depends on what kind of cruisers. And speaking of that as well, almost now we are going to have every cruise line represented here. The only one that is not here yet is Virgin, and I do think eventually we'll get them as well. So that's more boats, and of course we have the top largest size ships right now available. So like on any given Saturday or Sunday, we could have a turnover of 20 to 30,000 people. It sounds like a lot, and if you didn't live here, you would go, oh my gosh, the traffic would be horrible there. It's not. It's very normal, and it's kind of surprising. The only place that you see the real busyness is at the port itself, where you have the people unloading and loading at the same time.
Right.
They try to get them off the boat before the other people show up, but a lot of people get here early. And a lot of people stay at our hotels, which they get a deal to leave their car, which is a very nice little perk. And then they come back and spend a day or two afterwards with us. So that also breeds more for our economy, and it seemed to be a very stable industry after COVID too. So that's nice.
That's awesome. So what about some of the other things that are happening near the pier or the convention center?
Okay, so now we'll turn to Cocoa Beach. Cocoa Beach has two things. One, we're in the middle of the destruction or demolition of where the Westin Resort and Conference Center is going to go. It's next to Lori Wilson Park, which is a very interesting, beautiful park that's right on the ocean, which is very unique to our area. We are not totally built up. We don't have 20-story buildings everywhere. So we are more of a more natural beach area. But this convention center is going to do small, high-quality conventions. And the Westin itself is going to be beautiful. It's a very large piece of property. They're going to have a beautiful swimming pool, and they're also going to have, I believe, a lazy river and some other things in there. But it will be a plus for us as well, because we are limited in our area to doing any kind of conventions. You usually have to go to Melbourne, or you have to go to Indy Atlantic down there to do something smaller. So now we'll have more venues for other types of conventions that are too small for what's in Orlando. And that's going to be great for us. That's another whole set of people that we can tap into that we're not right now.
Yeah, very true.
At the same time, the other big development at the pier was bought by the Westgate Corporation, which is a timeshare company. They are going to be taking the parking lot, which is a vast area. There is going to be a parking structure on part of it, and the other part is going to be a hotel timeshare / operation on there as well. So there'll be rooms to rent there, as well as a hotel hotels that are around it, and then they're going to have a very beautiful pool. It's right on the ocean, and it's right there by the pier. So it's going to have the best of kind of all the worlds. Not sure what date they're going to start construction. This has been in talks for many years, but this is really concrete now on how they're going to develop the property. So I think it's going to be exciting to see what happens. I know some of the neighbors around it are not as happy about it. They feel they're going to lose their view of the ocean, but that's
kind of the way it is.
But it's only going to be a 7-story building. It's not going to be a tall 20-story high rise. It's still going to be within, they got a variance for 1 or 2 extra stories because of the parking structure on the bottom part of it. They are going to have plenty of the same parking they had before and more for the facility that they're going to build as well.
So you kind of mentioned a little bit about the sentiment in the area. How would you say that these projects are affecting people, how they feel about what's going on in Cocoa Beach and Cape Canaveral?
These projects pretty much, in general, are a very positive feeling from most people. You're always going to have people that want to keep things exactly the way it was, and nothing ever stays exactly where it was anywhere. You have to kind of like talk to them a little bit and say, yeah, it is changing, and it is changing. It's for the better. It's all high quality, high end type things that go hand in hand with what we already have. So we're blessed to be in a situation where our economy isn't being affected because of the higher interest rates. People are still moving here. People are moving here for jobs. They're moving here to retire. They're moving here to buy something that they can use when they want to and rent it out when they're not. It's a great place to invest, and our prices are still much, much lower for oceanfront than Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Tampa, or any of the areas. Even down there, Sanibel, which is all being rebuilt now, which is going to take some time, but we're still a much better value.
And kind of going back to what we've talked on this podcast before about bringing jobs. These projects are going to bring thousands of jobs. I know the aquarium has said thousands. The West End project says 1,300, which is going to be another boost to our economy and just a good thing, I think.
Well, and on the mainland, we are seeing a very quick set of constructions on apartment complexes because we really don't have that many apartment complexes in the county as a whole. Now we're seeing more and more being built. Some of them, they're starting to work on the units internally at this point. So we feel that within 12 months, we're going to have a lot more availability for apartments for people to live in just to get here. That's always something that people want to move here, but they don't know enough about the area. They don't want to commit to buying when they don't really know where they're going to live, and they want to make sure they're going to be close enough to their job, and the schools are going to be good for their kids and all that. So this is going to alleviate a lot of the pressures we're having right now because we just don't have enough rental property, period.
Right.
Doesn't matter, short-term, long-term, doesn't matter.
The rental market
is crazy.
Is still,
it's
the
crazy.
Demand is way higher than what the inventory is.
And right now, you can buy cheaper than you can rent here. That was not the case 3 years ago, 4 years ago. Now we're to the point where rentals are very expensive, and we're, first-time home buyers or someone that's going to move here that wants something small but doesn't want a big house, they can find something. They got to be quick, but they can find something.
Right. It's going to be available. You just have to move on it.
Right.
Kind of like what we say about houses
Everything.
still. Yeah, everything for
everything.
sale. Because, demand for houses for sale are still high too, higher than what our inventory is.
Absolutely.
Anyway.
Our price ranges are starting to get to the point. I know on Beachside, you used to be able to buy a house for $450,000, $500,000. You're getting in that price range now, a fixer-upper.
I was going to say,
and you have to be willing to do the work and be able to get the loan or have the money to buy it in that condition.
Right. And if you're buying already updated or new, you're looking at a much higher price.
800 to over $1 million now.
Yeah. Yeah. For not even like oceanfront or waterfront or anything like that. Yeah. Do you feel like these projects are going to positively affect home prices in the area?
I feel that they're not going to hurt our home prices at all. I think there's other factors that are going to affect home prices. I still think we're going to be a very steady, slow growth in price values for this market, just because we have so many things going on and our economy is very diverse. And so the more diverse it gets, we get more insulated to having big drops in our values. There are some parts of the country that are going to have drops, and we're seeing it now. It's not happening here.
Right. Well, and that's the one thing that we talk about a lot and that I love about this county. It's not just the beach and vacation and the cruise lines. It's so many different things that boost our economy here. We've got NASA and commercial space, and now these projects, the aquarium and these resort spaces. I mean, I remember back when, SpaceX was looking for a place to do their Christmas party, and they just didn't even have a place really, big enough to do it. And so now this convention space is going to be awesome for not only local conventions or businesses to do conventions there, but out of.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, everybody was having to go to Orlando. There wasn't even the Hilton in Melbourne, which has a very nice center attached to it, couldn't do a party of that size. I mean, they have a lot of employees.
Right.
So, what do? Break it up? No, you're going to go to a city that can house them all.
Right.
So hopefully we'll be able to capture that business and take some smaller things from Orlando. Once people have done Orlando a couple times, then they want to try something else. Just like we have done our Christmas parties and other events we've done them in Orlando, we've done them in Kissimmee, we've done them in other areas.
Yeah. I mean, my previous company, we did parties in Tampa.
As the train gets up and running, which is supposed to happen next month.
I saw it going by. Was that like a test or something?
Yeah, they're testing.
Okay.
I've never seen one, and I've been going to Orlando a lot, and I was like, I just can't believe I've never seen one go by. And they were supposed to tell us what times. I haven't seen one. I mean, I've seen one just sitting,
right,
but not running. So it
was really cool. I got really excited about it.
Yeah, it'll be nice when we get our station. Eventually we will have a station. We don't know when that will be. They're not talking about it. They know they're going to have to do it because the train from the airport, which will probably stop somewhere in Cocoa, and then you'll catch a bus or some sort of transportation to the port.
Well, it just makes sense. They're already shuttling people from Orlando to the cruise terminals anyway. Might as well
But it'd
have
be
a train.
so much more efficient on a train
Absolutely.
than all the buses that we see that are going back and forth all day long. And it's an enormous amount of buses when you're talking about 20,000 people moving, most of them going to the airport or going to Disney or going to Universal or something over there or staying over here at the beach. It's a lot.
Yeah. It really is. It's so exciting, though.
Yeah,
I love to hear about all the things that are happening. Do you have any other projects that you know of that might be in the works?
Well, we haven't really talked about condos. The Surf Project, which is a modern condo that is in downtown Cocoa Beach, is almost 100% dried in, which means the outside of the building is completed. I'm under the impression at this point all those units have sold, and they're all over $1 million, but they're all 3-bedroom. They're large condos, and it is a beautiful building. It's very different for us. We are not a ultra-modern community.
Right.
Though I think we're going to get more and more ultra-modern buildings as we go along. Down in the Satellite Beach South, there's 4 or 5 new condo buildings that are in the process of coming out of the ground right now on the ocean, which that's about the only place that there's land left. There's not much land left to do that. And we have a moratorium on height here, so you can only build a building 5 stories tall. So it does stop the multi-developers that like to do the very tall buildings. They don't come here. But it keeps our roads easy and manageable, even when we're on a busy weekend like 4th of July or Labor Day or Memorial Day or Easter or Christmas or New Year's. We don't have, stop and go traffic that is just like being on the interstate. It's very, very well managed, and it's a joy for everybody. We have a lot of people that bicycle here. We have a lot of people that own golf carts here. And so we are a very friendly place to get around without a car. So we hope that more people take advantage of that. And we have a bus system. We have a trolley bus system that runs through town that makes it really easy for people. We see more of the people off the cruise ships use the bus system than anything, which I think is very interesting to watch.
Little trolley is so cute.
Yeah, it is.
My understanding was that the surf was taking inspiration from Miami, but we will never be a Miami because the people here, they want to keep it small town, and that's what a lot of people love. They love the charm of this area and the small community feel.
Right. The moratorium on height completely changed how our growth would be totally different if they had not put that in 2005. we had already had developers here. We do have a couple of structures that are over
Grandfathered in.
12 stories that were built in the 70s and 80s before this time when this came to be. In fact, it was right after I had just become a real estate agent that had just happened. And it did take the emphasis of out-of-town developers coming here and buying up swaths of land on the ocean. They all kind of stopped at that point because they knew it was not going to be cost justifiable for them to move their business up here to do that kind of work. So,
Right.
And we're glad. I'm totally thrilled because it does have a smaller town feel.
Yeah, I get buyers all the time that love that about
Yeah,
us.
right.
And people from Miami, Fort Lauderdale that are moving up north because they want to get out of that
Yeah, they're
really
tired.
crazy.
Well, the traffic. I
Yeah.
mean, you build 25 buildings and they're all 30 stories or higher, and you've got all those people. Well, every time you build one, you're bringing 5 to 10,000 people that are going to be on cars. I mean, if your roads are only 2 and 3 lane and you're landlocked, this is what you develop. That's why the planning is so important. We are lucky that we've had the opportunity to plan for the growth that we want without losing a quality of life here. Yes.
I'm excited
The train,
about that.
When we get our stop, that'll be a really big thing. They keep talking about it, but Cocoa on the mainland is probably the best location.
For sure.
It's kind of in the center. It's close to the cruise ships, and that is one of the areas that's going to take advantage of the high-speed train more than any other thing here.
Yeah, and to your point, they already shuttle people back and forth from the beach to that area anyway, so it'd be really nice.
It won't be that hard. And eventually they may have a train that goes right to the port. That's just not going to happen probably in the next 5 years.
Right.
So, you might be taking the 15-year plan, and that's where that may come into play. Just like they have in Atlanta, where you have the train that's at the airport that goes all over. So virtually no one that lives in Atlanta goes to the airport with a car. Why would you, when you could leave your car out
Right.
closer to where you live?
Absolutely. I don't like to
yeah,
my car if I don't
crazy.
have to. Well, you've been here for a while. How would you say things have changed from the time you moved here till now?
My in-laws have owned their house since 1962, and I came for many, many years as a daughter-in-law visiting 4 times a year. Then we ended up moving here 19 years ago, full-time, just in the 19 years. Now, when we had what they call the big recession, pretty much growth stopped here because the Space Center was not doing anything after the shuttles retired. All the people had to move away. And so our economy was kind of like on hold for almost a decade. We had very little building then. And so in the last probably 36 months, 3 years, we've had more building going on. It looks like a building boom here. It's not, but it's all the things that people wanted to do back then, but didn't have the people that needed it. They weren't here.
Right.
And so now we've all come back. And tourism has always been a big thing. And 18 years ago, only had the big red boat. And we had a Carnival cruise ship, and that was it. I mean, and it was like Saturday and Sunday. And there was no cruise business during the week. And we didn't do any exporting. We did some, but not very much, of import-export business. Before COVID, we were doing stuff, but during and after COVID, that ramped up a lot because we had all these container ships with stuff on them, and they needed to put them somewhere and get them off the ship. So we are doing a lot with building materials here, which is very interesting to watch that all transpire.
I saw a bunch of lumber out at the port the other day.
Yeah, well, we've been doing that ever since COVID.
Yeah.
That business, we weren't doing near that kind of business. In fact, that's in the sand area where they were taking and putting the sand, because we have a concrete yard over on the one side of the port, which is very unusual. Most places don't have that, but that services a lot of areas, and it services the Orlando area as well, which is a great thing to have.
Yeah, I mean, going back to just having that diversification in our economy, because
Correct.
when the shuttle program ended, it really hurt us, and now we have so many more things to protect us from things like that happening again.
Okay.
And commercial space is not going anywhere anytime soon.
No.
So
We're not dependent on government appropriations to make things operate at the Space Center anymore. So NASA is hand in hand with the public sector, which we do have 2 people that, luckily have very deep pockets, and they are very into it. The main launches are coming off of here. They're doing a lot of testing in those other areas that they can't do here.
right.
I mean, there's too many buildings over there. There's too many people working. You can't test a launch engine,
Right.
Yeah,
you're
and
going
not
out
have
in
it
the middle of
blow up.
Texas.
So you go somewhere where there's a lot of desert.
Desert.
And a lot of space, and so if it blows up, it diversifies out, and they can go look for the parts.
It is nice that they are bringing a lot of their business here, and I think that has a lot to do with the regulations and stuff. You're not dealing with the same kind of stringent regulations that you do in the California areas and Pacific Northwest and stuff like that. So Florida is a nice place for those companies to bring
the infrastructure is all here. That's the main thing.
Right.
They're probably more careful now about the environment here than when they started the space program, because they did do those kinds of tests over there. They would do lots of things in the desert as well, but a lot of things were done over there at the Space Center. The thing is, they're doing things differently. Like now they're Amazon, which this started out as a Blue Origin project, but now has been turned over to Amazon. They're going to build satellites there on the property. The building is large, and that's not going to go anywhere. And we're always going to need satellites.
Right.
So that is a very good thing for all of us. Those are very, very high-tech and very expensive jobs. Mm-hmm. Just like down in Melbourne at that airport, there is a company that's doing things with jet engines. So that is, yes, they have applications that can be used in the space program, but it's also doing Lear jets and other types of jets and commercial. So that's another whole set of people. Again, it's all high-tech engineering and very highly educated people that need to come here to do these jobs. So it's a good thing for all of us.
Yeah, I agree. So what would you say to those who are maybe nervous right now to buy a home? They're not sure if an investment in this area would be, I get that where it's risky to buy right now. What would you say to those people?
Well, most people are sitting on the fence because they think the interest rates are high, which when you look at interest rates on the long haul, this is still not high. When we get up to 12%, now we're hitting a high number, and I don't think we're ever going to get there. And I really think that if we get to 8%, I think that, and that may happen, I think it'll be very odd if it goes higher than that. Might, but we'll see. As far as an investment here, they're not making that much oceanfront property anymore. We have what we have.
Right.
We have a diverse economy, and we have tourism too. We're not all in one boat or one or the other. I feel that our economy is stronger than it's ever been, and I feel that property values are going to hold or go higher. I don't foresee us having a huge downturn in our economy. I just don't. At this point, considering what we've been through over the last 20, 25 years.
Yeah,
so,
I agree with you. Well, that's awesome. I mean,
come visit.
Come visit, come by, come stay.
Come look.
Well, thank you so much for sharing all of your expertise.
Thank you.
Like I said, she knows everything.
Been here for a while.
Yeah. Well, that is Space Coast Real Talk. I am Nichole Barna. Thank you so much, Chris Ritman, for joining us.
Come visit.
Yes, please do. See you guys next time.